Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League show. I'm your host, the FPL guru, Alex Rex, and joining me today on his lonesome once again is Scott Williams. Scotty, how are we doing today?
I'm all right, mate. Sun is shining. Fantasy football is in the dirt, so what more can we ask for?
It's brilliant. One of my favourite questions I had this week came through and it said, everything's gone to now. How do we fix it? That was literally one of the questions.
Was that Callum Bennett?
It was.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, he's asking that question. He's got a wild card left. I mean, that's how you fix it. We will touch on wild cards today because I know a couple of listeners have got wild cards left, and it'll be one of the next 2 game weeks they're using it. How you can combine it in conjunction with the bench boost. Which potentially will be used in game week 36. If you have a free hit left, when do you use it? And there's only kind of one space left, 37 or 38, I suppose, as well. But we'll cover off where the fixtures all lie. Every fixture is in place now officially, other than one, which is Man City against Wolves. We still don't know if that's going into 36 or 37. It seems relatively likely it's going into game week 37 now for TV purposes. And the reason being that Liverpool play in midweek, game week 37. So Manchester City, if they also play in midweek 37, makes for better TV, more exciting running, etc. So, but it seems that way, but we're still in doubt. But all the fixtures are in place. We'll have a look at those. We'll have a look at this week's double game week 34. Chelsea and Man United are doubling this week. And yeah, we'll review the podcast league and so on. So let's start off with the kings of the game week so far. So as we stand in game week 33, there is only one fixture left outstanding, which is Southampton Southampton away to Burnley. Burnley at home. Big game for Burnley. Already got 2 Southampton players in the team of the week, though. Fraser Forster and Jan Bednarek. I mean, if you had both of those in your team this week, whether you're free hitting or not, then congratulations. Matt Target, one of the free hit options that everyone was really discussing and talking about with 11 points. Pontus Jansson, he's had a couple of weeks this season where he's appeared in here. Jansson, he's not done too bad. Bruno Gumarez, we spoke about him last week. He was on that short list of differentials I sent over and didn't end up picking him, which is a shame, but everything seems to be going through him at Newcastle. So he's definitely someone to consider, especially considering he is only at 4.9 million. So he's a cheap midfielder as well. Mo Salah, whoever doubted Mo Salah, Scott?
Us last week.
Absolutely. To be fair, our conclusion was that he was underperforming compared to his stats. And he came back and delivered. So,
and we also had a serious discussion at the end about making him captain because they were playing Man United, and we felt like he was going to turn up that game, which was absolutely spot on about.
It was literally there was 4 captaincy options in my team this week, and I chose the only one that blanked, which is well done with Harry Kane. But we did speak about the how lethargic they've been. There's definitely a different word to use there in the early kickoffs. But Sadio Mane. 13 points, definitely in good form at the moment, this very moment in time. Question coming up about £11 million midfielders. Riyad Mahrez, classic. He'll always appear in here from time to time. Elanga, 12 points, delivered nicely there. I don't know my draft team. Ronaldo, for the Norwich game, of course, only played one game for obviously sad reasons. He missed the Liverpool game. But a hat-trick there with 17 points. And Eddie Nketiah, Leeds fans. Eddie Nketiah delivering with 15 points so far. But one game left to go. Scott, who stood out for you this week? Any surprises? Any other people on there? How do you feel? How did this game week go for you generally?
Game week for me generally went horrendous, mate. So I had Harry Kane captain, and I could say it was we kind of called it. Well, I know I said the week before it worried me how Spurs might be. We went a week early with that prediction. Yeah, they were terrible in that early kickoff. I think it does actually really just sum up how I would love to see. And Alex, you'll probably have some stats all up for this. I would love to see the score lines and stats for that 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday, because I'm sure it's terrible. You don't usually get a big scoring sort of game week there. For myself, I stayed with Salah. And then there's some people, Jack Alcroft did not stay with Salah, so that was quite a good win for mine and Jack's little battle. People that impressed me, Salah returning again, and it wasn't just the goals; it was his overall performance. He looked on it, he looked back. So he looked brilliant, quite frankly. And Elanga looked good. Ronaldo's Ronaldo. Whoever says he's having a bad season when he's third, top goal scorer is fourth. It's unbelievable.
Right.
And then Nketiah, he actually looked really good last night. I was quite impressed by him. Leeds fans love him, and I've never understood it because I know you've got to be there to score tap-ins, but for me, he didn't do a lot at Leeds other than score a few crucial last-minute tap-ins, which is a lot for Leeds fans. But as someone not a Leeds fan watching it, I wasn't that impressed. But he looks good last night. He did look good. I mean, Chelsea's defence were a joke.
Oh, wow, they were so bad, weren't they? They were honestly, they were awful, weren't they, at the back?
I think it just shows when you've not got Thiago Silva and Rudiger in there, they're really exploited, aren't they? At those sort of the centre back positions. So they did look pretty poor. But no, Nketiah looked good. I still wouldn't jump on him, even though he's pretty cheap and he's probably going to play the next game. But yeah, it was a weird week.
It was a weird week. Congratulations to Manager of the Week, and I don't think he can be overturned. At this moment in time, we've still got Brozier left to play, but Gavin Webb, who's gone back top of the podcast league, his overall ranking, the top 10K at 8.5. So very nice, consistent ranking. Cancelo, Trent, Robertson, very solid. Reece James on the bench, didn't deliver. So it ended up working out really quite nicely there, but a really solid back four. Unlucky on Schmeichel last minute. I think a lot of people got unlucky there with having Casper in goal. Last minute losing that goal to Everton, but getting his captain right on Mo Salah ended up really working out, and that's the main reason for it. Same again, to be fair, with AD Chip in second place, didn't have as good a week at all, really. 15 points less than Gav, but the big saving grace was the Mo Salah captaincy with 38 points, but just outside the top 10K for AD. The statistics on Salah captain this week were crazy. He only got 7% of the top 10K captained him, 8% of the top 100K captained him. So he really wasn't heavily picked. And I can completely see why. I think you definitely have to look back at times. I usually kind of do this more at the end of the season, but when you have a real look at players' form, performance, why you picked somebody to be the captain they were. And obviously I've got to highlight Harry Kane at home against Brighton. And when I captained Harry Kane, he's got 11, 13, 6, 8, 13, 4 and 10 in his last games. I mean, the run of form he's on amazing. He's not at home against Brighton. They play expansive football. I thought they might be able to get in behind. They've got quite slow centre-backs. It seemed like the right pick, him or Son as a captaincy option. When you compared it to Mo Salah, who, don't get me wrong, got an assist against City, but 3-1, 9-3 the games before that. It still felt like Kane was the right choice. I don't think it was a mistake. I just think it's just one of those things that works out sometimes for you and sometimes doesn't, personally. But yeah, sometimes you have to really take a hard look at these things. And but yeah, well done to everyone that did captain Salah. What are the other things to point out as well this week in terms of statistics? So we referred back to the difference if you free hit or didn't in game week 13. This week was also another prime option where you could have free hit. The average 14.92% of managers, so 1,492 managers in the top 10K used their free hit this week. The average point score for free hitters was 66 points. So if you got more than 66 points in general without free hitting, you're on to a winner. This week, for example, I got 72. I've still got Brozier to play. I know you got 55, Scott. Have you got any players left to play?
If they want to make any appearances, yeah.
If Che wants to come on the pitch for you, then that'd be great. But basically, it's proven that this week itself was not a great week to free hit, and it was the right decision and the right move, even with Ronaldo getting a hat trick, because the majority of people who wanted to captain Bruno, and obviously Tom with 73 points, more than the average for a free hitter. So yeah, even though game week 30 probably proved like it might have been the right time to free hit, 33 would have been the wrong time generally. Obviously, it's always team dependent, blah, 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 blah. But generally speaking, statistically. Another decision Jeff Belcher got right, has to be said, is sitting there in third, got his captain free hit 30 rather than 33. Scotty,
I would just say one thing as well. While you were doing that, I was interested. So I did just have a quick glance through the kickoffs on Saturday, actually, and I've come back until sort of mid-December. Other than Leeds getting a couple of spankings,
right.
The biggest scoreline is 2-1. And that was like one or two occasions. And that was a Man City. And then everything else was 1-1 or 1-0. It really does show that game is that kickoff time does not have goals. And I think for me, I'm going to really take that into consideration a bit more, I think.
Yeah, I think
you've got to think your players they've not got that adrenaline rushing through the body. They've not been up and about as long. They're going to be that more lethargic, aren't they? So I think for me, in a toss-up situation, again, unless it's a really nailed on, you can't go away from it kind of thing, I think when I'm flipping, I think I would probably use that as a potential. Because I know we're all going to go Salah, but at the end of the day, Newcastle on form, I don't like it now. Now I've looked at those statistics.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who people want to go for in game week 35. Liverpool, the early kickoff away to Newcastle. That's going to be a big game. The other fixtures haven't been sorted yet, other than 37. Spurs at home to Burnley. Game week 37 is the early kickoff on Saturday.
I hate it again. I hate the early kickoff. It's dead to me now.
Yeah, and you know what? By the looks of it, statistically, it seems to be the case. Another couple of bits of housekeeping to have a look at were the fixtures. Like I said, have all been arranged. So we've got a double game week this game week. The only teams that double are Manchester United are at home against Chelsea. That's the extra fixture that's fitting this week, and because Chelsea are in the FA Cup final, which means that Chelsea have a single game week in game week 37 at home to Leicester, and Manchester United blank in game week 37. The only fixture outstanding is Man City against Wolves, and don't know where that's going to go yet. Most likely, it's going to go into game week 37 rather than game week 36, TV purposes, etc. So that seems to be the more likely situation. And also, the West Ham game needs to be on the weekend of 37 in case West Ham make the final, which would be midweek in 37 for the European final that they're in. Yeah. So yeah, that needs to stay there. So it's the Wolves game that needs to fit. So that's where we're up to with it. So if we have a look at the double game weeks in game week 36, we'll come back to this when we're talking about wildcards and talking about picks and players. But these are basically confirmed now who's going to be doubling in 36 and basically confirmed who's going to be doubling in 37. So yeah, we'll come back to that. And we had a discussion as well about form. Now, this doesn't take into account this game week that's just gone, but there are teams at the top here like Brentford, Liverpool, Leeds, Spurs. Form is something that definitely needs to be taken into account this time of the season. And you also need to take into account teams that are going to be on the beach a little bit more, or that aren't going to be giving 100% in games. Sounds a little bit harsh, but I haven't seen the Leicester-Everton game, so I'm completely speculating here. But with 10 minutes to go, Leicester are 1-0 up. Everton have to get a result really out of that game to continue their fight for survival. I just feel like all those Everton players would have had that extra 5 or 10%, would have had that extra half a yard in their stride, that extra bit of adrenaline, that extra bit of drive. And those Leicester players wouldn't have wanted to get injured. Wouldn't have wanted to fly into a tackle maybe a little bit more, maybe have been a little bit more, a little bit more cautious. And I think sometimes that needs to be taken into account towards the end of the season. Leicester not keeping clean sheets is key. So it's just something to watch when it comes down to matches. Villa, look at that at the bottom. Four losses in a row, because they're a big consideration for wildcards. Because they're doubling 36 and doubling 37. So if you don't have a free hit left, they're an ideal team. So anyway, we'll have a look at that in a bit. Scotty, I wanted to ask you, and I was going to ask Tommy, and obviously he's unfortunately too busy working. Your predictions for the Premier League for the rest of the season. Now, you've obviously got the table in front of us. Starting with the top, who do you think? City or Liverpool?
City.
City.
They'll all win every game. Well, actually, they've got a point advantage, haven't they? So, yeah, City will win the league. Obviously, Liverpool then second. I honestly don't know what Chelsea's going to turn up. I think Chelsea will stagger over the line to third. Inconsistency. I mean, they've only got the FA Cup final left. Obviously, those players will want to perform in the league to get that place in the FA Cup final. You would have thought, but yeah, pretty inconsistent Chelsea at the minute. Brilliant against Madrid, horrendous last night against Arsenal. Fourth, it's a funny one, isn't it? I don't think Man United will get it or anyone below them. I think Spurs will still get it. I think the next game's big for Spurs. They need to react after that bad display because they were, one of the best teams in the league coming up to that point. Mm-hmm. If they react, next game against Brentford, which is going to be a very tough game because Brentford are, like we saw, very much top form team pretty much. If they can react and get a result, London derby, I think they'll get over the line because I back Conte. But I mean, Arsenal just started to do it the hard way, haven't they? Lose your on paper easier games and then just go, actually, we'll just beat Chelsea 4-2 away from home. I think Spurs will just nick it. Arsenal 5th, United 6th, West Ham 7th. I think it'll be pretty similar to that. So essentially, the table will look like this. It's finished.
So they've still all got things to play for, haven't they, Dan? I mean, when you think about it, like any 7 teams will make Europe. Wolves and West Ham are still fighting out for that last European place. West Ham have to win the European trophy to guarantee European football next year. It's still all to play for. The teams in limbo land are Leicester down to Villa. Yeah,
I would include Leeds personally in that as well. But okay. I know Leeds will be fighting. They won't be playing like they're in limbo. They'll be fighting still for points. But they're never going down for me.
I don't think they're going down either. I just feel like they're 4 points away from.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've always said 40 is comfortable to stay up, but like you say, 37 is going to keep them up, isn't it? I think they win. They're away at Palace. I don't think they'll win that. I think they'll win one of the next upcoming games. They've got a tough little run, but then they do finish Brentford and someone else. So,
well, Burnley have got 7 games left, and they can get 21 points. I don't see Burnley getting 12 points out of 21.
Well, this is what I said to Tom. It's not so much that I don't think you're going to just pick up loads of points. I think it's more the fact that you look at Burnley and Everton, they're not exactly pulling trees up, are they? They're not doing what Fulham did a few years ago and West Brom did when they had the Great Escape. They've not hit a big run of form and gone, my God, they're an absolute... Like, say if Brentford were down there and they've just come and had this unbelievable run. No one's doing that. They're not exactly playing well. Burnley have lost John Dyche. That's probably going to... That crowd tonight is going to be flat because he was a god at that club. And if they don't get a good start, that crowd's going to be on the back of the players and the owners, etc. So I just don't think they're doing enough, Burnley or Everton, to even worry Leeds in the slightest.
No, I'd kind of agree with that. I think maybe one more win or a win and a draw, and then they'll relax. Relax. But until then, they have to still pick up some points probably. Yeah. And then it's bottom 4, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, the bottom 2 are gone. Yeah. They're never going to claw that back in 6 games. It's probably Everton against Burnley to see who's going to go down, isn't it?
Yeah, Burnley for me are gone.
Yeah, I agree. If especially if they lose tonight, because then Everton have got a game in hand and they're 4 points ahead of them. And Burnley have lost their manager, lost the momentum. But no, I'd agree. But these are all things to bear in mind when it comes down to FPL. And you have to know what people are playing for. And surprise results can come from different places. And don't get me wrong, Southampton, for an example, I don't know what Southampton are going to turn up tonight. You could get the team that got spanked 6-0 or a couple of 9-0s, or you could get a Southampton that play really good football and everyone talks about Hart and who it will be in the next Man United manager again. It's just it's you don't know what you're going to get with Southampton.
The Premier League's fantastic, isn't it? Chelsea spanked Southampton 6-0. Mm-hmm. Southampton then beat Arsenal 1-0. Arsenal then beat Chelsea 4-2.
I think Chelsea beat themselves last night, to be honest. And that's one thing I would say about Arsenal. I wouldn't get carried away with the fact they beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. I mean, Chelsea beat themselves pretty badly last night. They were horrendous. To get on to Chelsea, first question we had, Chelsea essentials. Pick 3. I had a couple, one which was triple up essential, pick your 3. Mount or Havertz, James or Rudiger if Rudiger's fit. So those are the three questions I had directly surrounding Chelsea. So let's start on the one that I think most people are asking, which is if I could only have one, Mount or Havertz. I'm going to get some stats up on the screen because I am going to compare them. But Scott, what's your take on them generally from a footballing perspective?
Football, generally perspective, no money on the line. They're all the same price. Havertz, for me, would be my pick just because I think he's a special player and he is that first pick in that attacking role. And even though Werner's coming through a bit of form at the minute, he is looking like the one. He did get his minutes managed a bit last night. It wasn't like he was dropped. He was obviously just rested. But it's very close. If I had the choice, I'd probably just go for Havertz. But Mount's on really good form. Yeah. He's cheaper on FPL. He's looking good. He's trusted. He seems like one of Tuchel's trusted players. And for some reason, I took him out like 2 weeks ago. I don't know what I was thinking.
It's where they get blinded by double game weeks, seeing Maddison and all that. It's just people do sometimes. That's just the way it goes. I think you've been unlucky really to get kicked by that too hard. But if we look at the attacking detail, then we're looking on per start. But let's just look at per 90 minutes. I think that's probably the slightly more important statistic. I'm trying to see if we're looking at whole of season here, fixture filters. Yeah, we are looking at whole of season, aren't we? Fine. So when you're looking at Mason Mount, obviously he's got more points per 90 minutes. I wanted to look at the expected points because I think that was, yes. So expected points per 90 minutes, even though Mason Mount's got 6.96 total points, his expected points were actually only 5.87. So he's performing above his statistics by nearly over a full point a match. Whereas Kai Havertz per start's got 5.75 points per minute, but his expected points are 6.1. So his actually expected points are higher than what Mason Mount's are. He's had double the amount of big chances per 90, so that obviously links into that. He's had more shots in the box again. He's had less shots on target, fun enough, but more shots, more touches, final third passes for Mount. It just goes to show that Mount is probably more the creator, and Havertz is generally more the goal scorer. My honest answer to this query is actually, I think I'm gonna narrow this down now to probably from like game week 26. But I actually think you really need to have both of them if you're wildcarding. And they're absolutely a midfield double up on Chelsea. I believe personally is more of a priority than the defensive double up, especially after watching them last night. Jesus. Since game week 26, both of the players have got 44 points each, and Havertz's stats are just slightly better in terms of attacking detail. He's slightly more money. If I had a gun to my head, I'd be going for Havertz. But I actually think gun to my head, I'd go for both of them. If I was going to wild card right now to go in a midfield and play in 5. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with that because you're not gambling on any attackers on fantasy football. You're not, Werner's playing a bit. You never go in Lukaku, so you're never touching the top, which leaves you with your midfield and your defense. Like you said, I don't trust the defense enough, and I don't think, even though I like having Reece James in, he's not a Trent. He's not like, oh, I've conceded, but it's all right. Trent's going to probably get an assist in this game. He's not quite at that level yet. So for me, I wouldn't be double up on the defense either. So I would, if I was to double up, I'd absolutely agree with you and go for 2 midfielders, and I'd always go Reece James.
Yeah. One of the things I would say is that when you're talking about I've heard quite a few things in the community this week about, well, Havertz's ceiling is higher. So his ceiling is a number 9 for Chelsea. It's not factually, because Mason Mount's two top scorers this season are 19 points and 24 points. Those are his two top. He's got a 19 pointer and a 24 pointer this season. Havertz's are 14 and 12. Those are his two top scores. So Mason Mount's top score was, I can't remember what I just said, like 7 points higher than Mount.
Yeah, I think it was. The Mount's top score was in the game where Havertz blanked, I believe, as well, and Mount hit a hat trick, didn't he?
Against Chelsea against Norwich, it was the 7-0 one, 7 points. It was 10 points more, 24 to 14. Now it's 10 points, good math. But literally 10 points higher, Mount.
Yeah.
So that's why I think you've got both 3 goals and an assist goal against Norwich. So yes, Havertz is the player I'm bringing in this week into my fantasy team, into midfield. But if I was wildcarding right now, Callum Burnett, everything's gone to pot. How do I fix it? I put both of these players in my team because I think they've got great upsides. James or Rudiger. It's James for me over Rudiger. The ceiling thing again. And also it's just more fun to watch. Imagine watching Antonio Rudiger as your player when you could have Reece James as your player. I'd rather have Alonso than Rudiger to watch.
I just don't like Rudiger as well. I think he's just not nice.
He isn't nice, is he?
I don't think he's a nice man.
He's not a very nice person. We're nice people in our team. But yeah, I wouldn't double up on the Chelsea defence because they've conceded. When I looked at the how many goals have they conceded? They've obviously 5 in the last 4. It says there.
Just having a look. They're quite inconsistent actually. They had a good run in sort of March. They conceded 1 goal in March in the league, and then they obviously kept a clean sheet against Southampton.
Yeah.
But I remember watching Soccer Saturday a lot of the games. Sat there without having Rudiger and without having any Chelsea defence. A couple of the games, they should have conceded. I remember the pundit on Soccer Saturday saying, "I have no idea how Chelsea are not losing this game." So I think even the Southampton game, I think Southampton were all over him at the beginning.
Oh, they were. Remember when Mendy was absolutely possessed? He was unbelievable, wasn't he? So yeah, I'd agree with that. I think, your 3 players are James, Mount, and Havertz in the order. I'd go Havertz. It's tough, Mount or James. If you only had 2 of them, probably James, just because I think there's a lot of midfield options across the game, and then Mount as my third choice. But all of them good picks. If you're wildcarding, I'd have all 3 of them in. So must-have players on your wildcard. That brings us quite nicely, I think, to that conversation. So let's do this when we're having a look at the fixtures. Let's get Mr. Krellen's graphic up because these things are just nice and easy. You can see in front of you who doubles and who doesn't. So let's start with goalkeepers. So when you're looking at players, must-have players to have on a wild card, you want ones that have got plenty of fixtures left. You want ones that have got good fixtures left. So Norwich are the team who have Leicester are the team. Tim Krul. Leicester are the team that have the most fixtures left to play, along with Chelsea. And in terms of actual ability and rating, I wouldn't go for Mendy. I still think Schmeichel is a top keeper to have him because they're not going to play any other goalkeeper. And they do have in game week 36 they have Villa at home, Spurs away, then they have Norwich at home, Everton at home, Chelsea away, Watford away, and Southampton. They have 3 of the bottom 4 in the space of 2 game weeks. I still think, although we've been bitten a couple of times by them, I still think that Schmeichel is probably one of the best keepers. Martinez is just probably a bit too expensive at Villa, but both of these defences just aren't very good. So if you wanted to go for an outside pick, you got Crystal Palace, the Leeds, Southampton, Watford at home. You go for Gaeta if you wanted to, something like that. Their defence is better than the 2 above them. But that doesn't work if you're looking at a bench boost because in 36, because they only have 1 fixture. Obviously, it's Watford at home, so it's not the worst in the world. Everton, I wouldn't touch their defence with a barge pole. And to be honest, I wouldn't look at Ramsdale right now either, because I think he could have done a lot better against the Chelsea game. And also, I don't really like the way that Arsenal defend without Thomas Partey. Let's get back to that. And who are the other double game week keepers? Yeah, not going to go for Meslier. I'd love Alisson, but you're not going to waste a Liverpool space on him. You're not Tim Krul potentially as a backup. Lloris, Liverpool, and Arsenal again. I probably wouldn't go for Lloris. And Ben Foster's your absolute number 2 keeper. Yeah, Scotty, it's probably Schmeichel for me still. What do you think?
Yeah, he gets a lot of, because that Leicester defense is so bad. He gets at least probably a save point a game as well. And obviously Snippet maybe a bonus point even without keeping a clean sheet. So yeah probably cast for Schmeichel.
If I think it's a wild card for me, it's Schmeichel and Foster are your two keepers, especially if you're bench boosting in 36. Just I don't think you really need to think too much more about it. Defensively, must-haves. We've just mentioned James. Yeah. I'm going to assume we're going to go with Trent as well as a must-have. The rest is quite interesting because, I mean, Cancelo is absolutely one of the best defenders in the game. From an attacking,
we're getting expensive now, aren't we?
We are getting expensive. We're definitely getting expensive, and I do think that now I know they've got Watford at home right next. I know, and then Leeds away. I know, but the Champions League does fit in around after Watford and then after the Leeds game. So I'm not saying you'll get rotated. I'm not saying that because he hasn't been, so it's pretty proven.
I don't think.
No, because they've like Walker's injuries and Zinchenko's. I don't know what's going on. Ake has been playing at left back and doing really well, actually. I feel like at some point he has to be rested, but also it's just I don't know. I feel like if there's one of the three of James, Trent, and Cancelo that can be sacrificed, maybe it's him, especially if you're free hitting in game week 37, because there's the double game week for City most likely, and then you can bring him in that week if you wanted to do so.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally you'd have him, but then you have to make sacrifices elsewhere in your team. Other defender? Sorry,
I'd look at Wolves. Mm-hmm. The Burnley, Brighton, obviously. Chelsea, Man City is obviously horrendous, but if you've got a Norwich in there, you'd back yourself a little bit on there. So I'd go back to potentially looking at Wolves, potentially.
Yeah. In terms of other defenders as well, Leicester, Norwich, Burnley, Liverpool, but Palace and Burnley again, and Man City. Other than the last day of the season, if you haven't got a free hit for 37, I think someone like Matty Cash is a good shout. 2 double game weeks, even if you do have a free hit, I think he's still a good shout as well. You want to be looking at players that double in 36 if you've got the bench boost, and you could look at someone like Ben White if you wanted to go a bit cheaper. I still wouldn't look at the Everton defenders because they're just a bit of a nightmare. Leicester defenders it's almost impossible to pinpoint them, especially if you've got Schmeichel already. It gets really difficult to see who you're going to want to put in there. Mm-hmm. And I almost feel like the only options that you really want are the really expensive ones. So it is sorry. So it is tough to pick. Sorry, excuse me. It is tough to pick who you wanted to go in at the back there. Midfielders. Is Salah essential still, Scott?
Yes, correct. He absolutely is. I think even if he'd not done anything against Man United, it would still be sat here saying he's essential because he could hit form at any point. I think he's still essential in a team that's chasing the league. He's going to play. He's going to start every game. He's not going to get dropped. He's definitely essential.
Just before we go on to the interesting question I've got about midfielders in the price range of sort of Mane, Son and KDB, one question that did come in was, would you sell Saka for Mount or Havertz this week?
Yeah,
I agree.
Probably what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I would too, because he scored a penalty yesterday, and I'll be honest, he didn't blow me away in the game anyway. And the penalty was hilarious because just Aspilicueta was just giving him a couple. It was just one of the most ridiculous. I mean, they never get given either of those penalties, really, but still. So very blessed to get those points for all Saka owners. I am one of them. But yeah, very blessed to get those points out of that at the end of the day. But yes, I would do that. I think one of the interesting questions to ask about a wild card is, do you go for that £11 million midfielder bracket, or do you go for Harry Kane? So it's a difficult debate because there's Mane, who has to be talked about, Kevin De Bruyne, there's Heung-min Son, all in that range. And you can't afford James Trent, Cancelo, Robertson. You can't, even at that point, Mount, Havertz, Salah, and you can't afford Kane and De Bruyne. You can't afford Son and Kane. You basically have to sacrifice and have to go for one of those players. So if you were sitting there right now with the fixtures that have got left, who would you be going for between Mane, Son, Mane, it's difficult, isn't it? Son, KDB, or Harry Kane?
I'm going to rule Mane out straight away, not because he's not on a great form, and I know he is, but I'm going to go for Salah, and I don't want them both in my team. When I've got this decision, I just can't. Who do you want? KDB?
Yeah, KDB, Son. I'll tell you what I'll do. Make it a bit easier. I will get them up on this screen here. But yeah, basically KDB, Son, or you go for Harry Kane, because you have to go for a striker. He's the only expensive striker you're going to go for, isn't it? Really, let's be honest. Because you're not going to go for Bruno. You're not going to go for Sterling. So in terms of the expensive midfielders, you have to downgrade to Jota. It's basically, do you go Son, De Bruyne, Mane, or Kane? Really.
Well,
tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really tough.
I think when you look at Kevin, he for me at this very moment in time, at an ownership of 7.8%. I'll have a look at his 10k ownership in a sec, but 7.8%. He's delivering returns in four of his last 5 matches, and he started all of the last 7. He only missed Norwich. And then before then, he started every single league game for Manchester City since Leeds in game week 17.
Yeah, the only fixture, if 17 onwards, you're fine with him, aren't you? Because he's playing at least 70 minutes in every game.
Yeah.
So Kevin for me is the one I was almost saying then as someone to bring in, because you don't get hot and cold Man City. You just get a hot Man City. Not like with Spurs where you get potentially a cold version of. So for me, I would go Kevin De Bruyne over Son. Yeah. Because you've got that consistency with Man City. You know he's going to be making chances every game. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I would have Kevin De Bruyne, Salah, and Kane. I think if I had the option, if I had the money.
It's even less than I thought it was. 0.9 is 920 managers, 92 managers. God, get your maths right now.
92,
yeah, because 1% is
it's 900. 9.2% would be 920.
Yeah. So you've got 92 managers, De Bruyne, and that's it in the top 10k. I mean, that's crazy low. Whereas when you look at Son, it's half. It's 5,831 managers. And Kane, it's 5,158. I think it's quite clear. If you're looking to gain, Kevin De Bruyne is just like the dream differential right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So if I was wildcarding, I would be going for a midfield of Mount, Havertz, Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, and then leads us on perfectly to the next question that I had. God, it's like I planned this. It's which three strikers would you bring in on a wild card if you didn't have Harry Kane? So if you're going for that expensive midfield, what 3 budget strikers would you go for? And this person asked the question when they've got a bench boost. So they want a double game week strikers in 36.
Okay, so I want 3 double game week strikers.
Yeah, preferably. That's what they'll be looking for. It's horrendous, isn't it? Sorry, it's awful.
So how budget are we going?
Well, you'd need to have, I think what I worked out was you probably have to have 3 of them around about 6 million, or you'd have to have like a 7, 6, and a 5, something like that.
So what I would probably look at doing there.
These up here. Let's just look at these lot. So can I do the budget on it? I know, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll do it. So basically you'd start off with maybe like an Ollie Watkins or an Ian Show.
Yes. I mean, obviously they want the double game week there, don't they? So I would probably look at Watkins, Burnley and Liverpool, personally. I would actually go for a bit of an FPL legend a couple of years ago at the start of the season. I would probably go Timo Pukki.
Do you know what? Pukki was exactly who I was thinking of. And I know that it sounds, for a lot of people listening to this, they'd be like, my God, really? Pukki? Genuinely, he scored his last couple of games as well. Like, he's not exactly out of form, terrible. No. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Norwich are crap. But they've got Newcastle, Villa, West Ham, Leicester, Wolves, and then Spurs.
You've got to look at that double game week. Mm-hmm. 2 teams that are going to be in Europe.
Exactly. I genuinely think of the 3 strikers that you would put in, he's probably the most obvious.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
I agree.
And I think every wildcard draft I've pretty much seen on Twitter and all across the board has had Pukki in it as the budget striker. Good. So I'd agree. Can I throw a complete curveball in there that might make everyone throw up in their own mouths?
Well, I was just about to say Dennis or King.
Emmanuel Dennis.
We always like to go back to them, don't we?
Oh God, we do. I mean, he played 90 minutes his last game. He did score a goal. He's 5.8 mil. He's got obviously City next, so you'd obviously bench him. Then he's got Burnley, Palace, Everton, and Leicester.
Yeah, I think you have to go for Dennis. Again, you'll be disappointed when you do it, but you need to go for him again, I think.
The other players you've got options. I mean, someone like Nketiah, if you wanted to, you could, if you've got gambling problems, but I don't think he'll play both games.
No,
and I think that's something that is something that's an issue. I would have suggested someone like Cucho as well, but he's still injured.
He's injured. I think he's done for the season.
He's done for the season now, which is why Dennis, again, he's probably going to play every game now, end of the season. And then one of the other players, Mr. Rodrigo. 90 minutes. He scored in his last. He scored 3 of his last. Yeah, he scored 3 of his last 4 games. Like, I think you could go much worse than 6.3 million Rodrigo. Now I know his double game week is Arsenal and Chelsea, right? I'm not, but weirdly, he's going to play both games. You know what Leeds are like, and also you can play him against Palace. You can play him against Brighton. You can play him against Brentford on the last day of the season, if you wanted to. Again, I think if you're looking at the handful of I mean, you don't know when Vardy's going to be back. Don't get me wrong. I love Iheanacho, but he's not showed the form of last season. They've got such a good double game week. Everton and Norwich at home. It's so good, but you just can't fully rely on a Leicester asset to play both games again. It's Watkins versus Iheanacho. I probably just edge on the side of Watkins in terms of a double game week. And then it's probably Pukki, Rodrigo, or Dennis, I would say, in terms of if you're really wanting double game week players, if you're really wanting to stick out those that have 15 double game week players in game week 36 with your bench boost.
Well, I think why not as well. I know sometimes it's a debate of, do I go for a double or do I go for a nicer looking single? But I think for that budget for strikers who are so thin on the ground this year on FPL, I think you may as well just roll the dice and give Pukki 180 minutes to do something for you. Because all you want in them 2 games for Pukki is 1 goal. Completely
agree. And when you look at the single game week options, Tony, Southampton at home, whatever. Brighton, anyone from Brighton? Burnley, Weghorst at home to Villa. No, I'm all right, thanks. Mateta got rotated for Edouard last night, which just felt like a right troll. But Watford at home, United, no one. You're not going to put Ronaldo in for the rest of the season, are you? Newcastle have got City away, Southampton, Brentford away. Like literally, West Ham have got Norwich away, but it's between like potentially European ties. You're just not going to touch them. So I think.
Plus, I'm sorry, who are you going for West Ham? The guy that's not performed in 9 months.
Antonio is still, isn't he like the 3rd top scoring striker still from his first 4
How much of a joke the strikers are this year?
They're awful, aren't they? Which is why, again, if you're not going for Kane, because Kane is obvious as the more expensive option, then I think if, again, I keep saying I've gun to my head, and stop using that phrase. It's just horrible, isn't it? It's a horrible statement. I think right now, I would go for Watkins, Pukki, and Dennis if I had to make a decision right now. I do like the Rodrigo pick. I think it's just a bit different. So we've built our wildcard team there, Scott, roughly. And we've gone Schmeichel, Foster, James, Trent. If we can afford a Rob or Cancelo, we'd stick them in there. Then a couple of budget ones that are playing, in double game week 36. Mount Havertz, Salah, Kevin De Bruyne. And I think we both agreed after last week, probably someone like Dewsbury Hall to fit in there as your 4.4 mil enabler. Yeah. And then Watkins, Pukki, and Dennis. So hopefully that helps people answer people's questions. Pretty much covers off everything else, other than the fact that I had two messages: one telling me that Salah was the GOAT, and one telling me that Nketiah was the GOAT on Instagram. Thanks, guys, for sending in your questions.
Who sent in Nketiah one?
Who do you think it was? We're seeing him tonight to play football with.
Mr. Burns.
He absolutely loves his Arsenal, doesn't he? What a guy! What a guy! One other very fun announcement that needs to go in now is the All In Football podcast League Cup starts next week. So if any of you guys decide that this is where, right, I'm if anybody's still listening that's not trying very hard and got loads of chips left, you absolutely stand a massive chance of winning this cup. You can use a chip every week and win the inaugural All In Football Podcast League Cup. So fixtures will be determined at the end of this game week. If there are 32 teams, then each team will have a fixture in the cup next week in game week 34. There's 20 odd. So a couple of us will have a bye into the next round already. I have no idea. I think it's random. Some teams receive a game week 34 based on the game week 33 score. Okay, so they're probably the top performing teams in this game week 33 will get a bye. So someone like Gav probably has a bye through to game week 35. Like, I need any more help this season, Gav. Honest to God. But yeah, some of the top performing sides in this game would probably all get a bye, and then everyone else start facing each other. So yeah, there's 28 managers. So if there's 32, what does that mean? There's probably four teams that will get a bye then. So yeah, very exciting. Want to see who's going to win the cup? They will get an especially big shout out because they will win some silverware this year to go with the winner of the actual All In Football Podcast League. So yes, exciting times. Watch out for your cup draw. So all you guys with wildcards in game week 34, advantage you for the cup. But I like it. How exciting. So let's look at game week 34. Let's just round this off in terms of deadlines, captains, and looking at the fixtures. So the deadline is 11 o'clock on Saturday the 23rd. So 11 o'clock deadline on Saturday morning. Thank God for that. Set it up before a bit of day drinking, lads. That'd be nicely done before you watch Arsenal play Manchester United at home, Leicester Villa, City Watford, Norwich, Newcastle, Brentford, Spurs on the first day, Brighton, Southampton, Burnley, Wolves, Chelsea, West Ham, Liverpool, Everton, Merseyside derby on the Sunday. Then Palace, Leeds is the Monday Night Football, and then on that Thursday it's Man United against Chelsea, and then that leads into the next deadline, which again is on the Saturday after. So captaincy picks. Imagine if you brought De Bruyne in this week, though. Watford at home. Someone from City. Don't. Also, I wanted to make sure I mentioned it. I think Foden still is a fine pick, by the way. If you wanted to go for another Manchester City player, but yes, Scotty, who are we thinking? Who immediately stands out to you?
Mason Mount.
Yeah,
just get blinded by the double sometimes. I mean, two really tough games. Let's not lie, but they're gonna want to bounce back. Obviously, that's a bit of a naughty fixture, isn't it? Chelsea, West Ham, as in there's pretty big rivalry there, I believe. So I can imagine
they are playing. Like it's all 34. They are playing in Europe after that Chelsea game at West Ham, and I do. It does make me think that they're going to have an eye on that game, and it's live on Sky. It's something to watch.
For me, Mason Mount, or if you brought Kevin De Bruyne in, Kevin De Bruyne. But I'll just copy and paste what I said last week. Salah could easily get a hat-trick against Everton.
especially with it being Everton.
Yeah, I keep forgetting. I look at Everton and like, because obviously Everton have been quite an okay football club for the last few years, I forget how crap they are. Yeah. It takes me a few moments to remember that. So now I've properly thought about it. 4:30 kickoff at home to Everton in a Merseyside derby in a game where they're chasing the league. Oh, do you know what? That is a really tough captaincy pick this week. I think if Chelsea had a single game week and weren't playing a really poor Man United team, I don't think I'd be tempted at home to West Ham. I think it would be if I brought Kevin De Bruyne in, and if I didn't, it would just be Salah. That double game week is sparkling at me a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. Can I turn my back on Salah again?
It's going to be Havertz for me this week in terms of captain. How fun is this? It's going to be Havertz versus Salah again. The last time Salah got his hat-trick when it was those two going head-to-head as captains. But it's probably going to be Havertz for me this week. I'm bringing him in to be captain. It's one thing I'm doing.
Fair enough.
Home against West Ham and then a double game week against an absolutely rubbish, depressing, appalling Manchester United side. Yeah. So don't get me wrong, these are two must-win games for Man United, but whatever.
They probably won't win them.
Probably won't win them. So, but absolutely anybody who wants to captain Mo Salah, fair play. Why not? And if you're bringing in someone like De Bruyne, even a Foden.
Do you think this week then, the people winning the game leagues, see Gavin Webbs, etc., they'll be getting Salah Waller?
I think it's an incredibly defensive captaincy pick, though.
I agree with you. I think like people that are chasing, that's when you go for your Man City or Chelsea captains.
What I would say, and I know these guys listen to this podcast, so probably going to maybe stick two fingers up to me when I'm saying this anyway. But you can tell from this game week, like as in they've captained Salah against Man United in a single game week instead of going for double game week Saka, double game week Maddison. For an example. They've gone for that single game week player. AD Chip's team, for an example, again, double game week Saka. He had Son and Kane, obviously going for Salah, but double game week Maddison.
Can you just go back on the league? It's like, what's the gap between these two, out of interest?
These two really, really close.
So for me, Gavin Webb's definitely going Salah. So it's AD. Are you going to roll the dice, AD? Because if you get your captaincy right, you're going to go top this week.
He's not, because he's a Liverpool fan.
He's too scared to leave. Oh, wow.
He's a massive Liverpool fan. So he went Salah last week. He's going to go Salah this week. I'd say we're looking at two Salahs. And the man who's going to captain someone, the man who's going to go that one Havertz, the man who's going to bring in Havertz this week, I'd almost bet my bottom dollar on it, Jeff Belcher. Yeah. You're bringing in Havertz this week if you can afford him, and you captain him, aren't you?
100% is.
That's where you're going to look at the difference.
And he might even be bringing a cheeky Rodrigo in or someone like that.
Tom's going to captain James or something. He's going to do something different.
No, I'll tell you now what Tom will do. Click back on his team. Tom will captain Mo Salah.
There you go, Salah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to be bringing in Havertz and captain him. And we know that Dave Burns probably going to captain Havertz.
He's not bench boost.
He's bench boosted this week, yeah. Unfortunately, he's bench boosted two Everton players.
Is that some people are laughing in your?
They're outside, Dave. But yeah, so an Everton player in Gordon.
All I'm saying is, at least he got his little 1 point for Lacazette coming on for literally 4.5 seconds last night.
It's not worked out too well, the bench boost. Took a -4 to get it as well, so 73 overall. But never mind, it is what it is. I think that rounds us off quite nicely, Scott, in terms of this week. In terms of chat and conversation, we've identified who we'd pick from Chelsea, who are our must-haves. We've done our wildcard team. We've told you who our captains are going to be. Told you who my transfers are also going to be this week. Good luck, everyone. I think it's going to be an interesting game week again. Just like this one, I think we're going to have a couple of different captains. I think there might be a couple of different swings. And I'm really excited for the first week of the All in Football Podcast Cup.
I hope I get a buy. I need it.
I don't think you will with your game week score. I think you're going to be playing this week. Excuse me. But yes, thank you ever so much for tuning in, everybody. Don't forget to like the video, share it, tell your friends, get them all involved. And yeah, don't forget to follow us as well on our social platforms. You already have Only Football Pod on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We'll try to put the team up on Instagram best we can do. Scott, thank you for joining me.
It was a pleasure, mate, as always.
And yeah, good luck and green hours all around in Game Week 34. Bye for now.